Have you ever found yourself at the bottom of a bag of chips and wondered, how did that happen? Or why some snacks just feel impossible to say no to? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the processed food industry's playbook. We're going to explore how these products are literally engineered to be craveable and what that really means for all of us.
But look, to really get what's going on here, we have to start with the human side of the story, because that's where you see the real cost.
So let me tell you about Carole. For pretty much her whole life, her diet was things like snacks, sandwiches, and sugary drinks. Her story really shines a light on a struggle that is just so common, where the very foods that are supposed to give you a little bit of pleasure end up becoming a trap. You see, it's this crazy cycle. You eat to feel better, but then you feel worse, so you eat more. And this is so important to understand. This is not just about willpower. So many people describe it as a complete loss of control, where food sort of becomes this refuge from really overwhelming emotions. So what is it that makes these foods so incredibly hard to resist?
Well, the answer isn't some kind of personal failing. Nope. The secret is actually baked right into the food itself, literally by design.
The industry's real power, its secret weapon, it really boils down to three key ingredients. A combination so powerful it's been called the unholy trinity: salt, sugar, and fat.
Okay, so each one of these has a very specific job. Salt gives you that initial flavor burst. It gets your attention right away. Then you've got fat, which creates that smooth, satisfying mouthfeel that makes food feel so good. And then there's sugar, the real kicker. It taps directly into our brain's reward centers. So when you put all three together, wow, it's a perfectly engineered sensory hit designed to make you forget you're even full.
And trust me, none of this is happening by accident. It is a full-blown science. Food engineers literally work in labs to find something they call the bliss point. That's the perfect amount of sugar to make something as alluring as possible, but not so sweet that it turns you off. It keeps you coming back for more.
The industry is really careful with its words. Michael Moss, an investigative journalist who's dug into this for years, points out that they never say addictive. Instead, they use terms like engineering craveability or moorishness, which, you got to admit, perfectly describes their goal, making you want more and more.
Okay, but here's the part that might really get you. The public health crisis caused by these foods, this is not some new revelation for the companies making them. Oh no, they have known for decades. Let's just rewind the clock for a second. Picture this. It's April 8th, 1999. The most powerful people in the food world, CEOs from Kraft, Nestle USA, you name it, they all gather for a top secret meeting. And what was on the agenda? A crisis they knew they were helping to fuel, the obesity epidemic. And in that room, one executive, a guy named Michael Mudd from Kraft, he actually stood up and sounded the alarm. He told everyone there, we cannot pretend food isn't part of the problem, and he begged them to take action. But his plea, it was met with a brick wall. Another CEO basically shot back, saying there was no way they would mess with their company jewels, that's salt, sugar, and fat, if it was going to hurt sales. Profits came first. And just like that, the meeting was over. Nothing was done. And that profits first mindset, it didn't go anywhere. Let's fast forward to 2021. An internal Nestle presentation gets leaked, and it reveals the company's own admission that more than 60% of its mainstream foods and drinks just don't meet a recognized definition of health. So, okay, the problem is crystal clear. How are governments actually responding to this? Well, to really see it in action, let's look at two totally different approaches from around the world. First, let's head to Mexico, one of the countries hit hardest by the obesity epidemic. Just to give you an idea of the scale, the average person there drinks, get this, 163 liters of soda every single year. I mean, that's just staggering. So, facing this huge health crisis, Mexico decided to act, and they acted decisively. They brought in a sugar tax, they cracked down on ads targeting kids, and they slapped big black warning labels on unhealthy products, kind of like you see on cigarette packs. Now, on the complete flip side, you have Switzerland, which is home to the food giant Nestle. There, they fought against these kinds of rules, thanks in large part to heavy industry lobbying. And if you want to see the real-world impact of these policies, you just have to look at one product. Fanta. In the UK, which has a sugar tax, it has about 4.6 grams of sugar. But in Switzerland, that same drink has 10.3 grams. That's more than double the sugar. Same brand, totally different product, all because of one government policy. You know, this whole battle between public health policy and corporate profits, it has some really profound consequences. And the ones who are most at risk are the youngest and most vulnerable people in our society.
See, the food industry knows something crucial. Our eating habits are pretty much locked in by the time we're 10 years old. That's why they go after kids so aggressively, using cute, friendly animal mascots to build brand loyalty that can last a lifetime. A lot of health experts see this as just plain manipulative, which is why Mexico has now gone so far as to ban those famous tigers and toucans from unhealthy cereal boxes.
A pediatrician, Natalie Farpour-Lambert, who has been treating overweight children for decades, she puts it in the starkest terms you can imagine. She basically says this is a violation of children's human rights, and she asks if we're really willing to sacrifice entire generations for this.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, it becomes pretty clear that the struggle so many people have with food, it's not just a failure of personal choice. It's a battle against products that have been scientifically engineered to make us want more. Which leaves us with one final and I think pretty provocative question to think about. When food is literally designed to be irresistible, who is ultimately responsible?